Today's build. Well, it will be once I build it. I'm doing these videos in reverse now. But, so this is what you're going to watch me build for the next, I've gotten it down to 45 minutes. So we got a 45-minute full build process here. We'll go over a few basics, though, as far as the hardware. So what we have here is a i7 7700K on a MSI. It's a Z270 carbon. Z27 carbon. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, so it's not the carbon Wi-Fi. It's just a Z270 carbon. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, two 16 gig sticks of HyperX. I think it's HyperX Fury, but it's good RAM. We did go with kind of an unusual choice for the GPU on this one. I do have a 12 gig Titan X Pascal, not to be confused with the Titan XP because they do look identical. So this is essentially a somewhat, shall we say, roided up 12 gig GTX 1080. My guess is that the actual performance of the card it's probably not quite as high as a 1080 Ti, but it's also not quite as low as a vanilla 1080. It's like if there was a 1080 Super, that's probably what this thing would perform as, except in occasions where you are particularly video RAM limited. In those cases, I could see this even outperforming a 1080 Ti, but there aren't a lot of gaming scenarios where a 12 gig 1080 is going to outperform an 11 gig 1080 Ti. It's kind of it'd be a niche scenario. But if that scenario were a thing, for maybe like AI or deep learning or all that kind of stuff that I know basically nothing about, I wouldn't be surprised, because I think the Titan, I think, is really more for that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's better for that. Then we've got 750 watt power supply, tempered glass case. We've got a Corsair 240 millimeter. I don't even know exactly which model is H100, H110, something like that. But it's a dual 240 millimeter fans. 500 gig NVMe M.2. I did not go with an auxiliary on this. I did a few other nicer things on this, so I didn't put the value in for an additional drive. And then we've got a Gamdias. I'll list the case in the description. I don't even remember. I've got a box sitting in the other room with it. But so a few thoughts on the case. I wouldn't recommend buying this case. I don't believe it's a bad case. It's got good airflow. It's not great airflow. It's okay airflow. It's sufficient. And for a ready-built system like what I'm going to sell, it's fine. It's neither good enough to rave about nor bad enough to complain about. But I wouldn't recommend seeking this case out, like actively thinking I'm going to go buy that case. Probably my biggest complaint on this case isn't any one thing. My biggest complaint is going to be that there's just better options in this price point. You can't get with a full setup with the RGB fans and a tempered glass case. You can't get much cheaper than $50. There are better options for $50, and there are substantially better options for $80. So I would definitely recommend stretching your budget just a little bit. That being said, if you were to end up with this case, you got it for free, you wanted to build a system, or you're my buyer and you're looking at my system, whatever. There's no smoking gun. There's no don't buy it for this reason. Again, I just wouldn't recommend explicitly seeking this case out, because it's not that this case is that bad. It's that those other cases are just much better. That's kind of the best I could say. If you really know what you're doing as far as cable management, it's not that big of a hassle. There were a few little things that I wasn't too thrilled about, but nothing that really impeded my ability to build the system or required me to get particularly creative. It's just a fairly run-of-the-mill gaming case. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy watching me do this build. And I hope you can learn something about building a computer. And thanks for watching. This is probably going to be a fairly simple build. We will start with putting our power supply in on this one. So this one is with a brand new case that comes with both, dang it, that comes with both some benefits and some drawbacks. The benefit is I can just build. I don't have to worry about the things that I normally would have to worry about, such as cleaning the case, things like that. Like I spoke about on yesterday's build, which happened to have some exceptionally clean cases, today's build just has a brand new case. However, the downside is that the cases that I normally use are quite a bit more expensive cases than you can justify buying new for builds like these. So when I go brand new, typically the cases aren't going to be as nice. And just looking over this case, this is a low-end case by a company called Gamdias. Gamdias. And just looking at it, I can tell I'm not going to love it. From what I can tell, it appears to be a perfectly fine case, and it's not going to be a problem for the buyer for this system. But until I actually have a built system, this is going to be kind of a pain in the butt to build in. So let's put our motherboard in. My guess is that this is going to be one of the faster builds that I've done, because this is going to be a very simple build. As usual, at least lately, the parts are all pre-tested. It just makes it easier. We're not, the goal of these videos is not parts testing. This one, they didn't even give us the... So normally what you'll get is you'll get you will get a standoff with a thing that kind of sticks up just enough to get caught on the motherboard that helps you. It just helps you install. It makes it a little easier to install because it holds the board in place. This didn't even have that. Now, I will say it is worth mentioning, as someone who likes to do cable management, I enjoy cable management. So, for somebody who enjoys cable management, I mean, I can cable manage any case. Like, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, you know, you need a build that's optimized for new builders. God, I hate that phrase. Not every case. I'm not against people that don't. Look, I have nothing against somebody that's new and doesn't have experience, but not every single case needs to be optimized for people that are new and have no experience. Some of us aren't new and have lots of experience. Make some cases for us too. So we are shooting for a 1 hour total video, including the part that I haven't shot yet, the intro to the build. This is actually a really nice board. I had seriously considered, darn it, I had considered keeping this one. The reason that I wanted to keep it was because That's funny. It's got two of those. I had wanted to keep it because of the fact that 7700K is the fastest 4-core chip that Intel did. It was the last one they did before they switched over to the high core count CPUs. So starting with the 8700K and then going to the 9700K, 9900K, just from that point forward, they kind of started moving towards more and more cores. And that's a good thing. But sometimes when I'm doing testing, I like to test with certain period-specific hardware. And actually, the 7700K is actually still a surprisingly good chip. Because some games, not all games, can take advantage of high core count CPUs. And so if you can't take advantage of a high core count CPU, it doesn't really do you any good. What's going on here? Something I don't like about this case, among other things, is that it did not come with it didn't come with a LED controller, which I wish it would have. It would have been nice if it did. Let's see. How do I want to... Yeah, this is another one of those cases that's like really tight. I'm going to have to make it so these can lay flat. I guess we're going to have to do this. Well, we might have to do it right here. I'm thinking right there. One of the fairly standard hallmarks of a low-end case that you'll find is that they typically don't have a lot of cable management space behind the motherboard tray. It's certainly workable. I mean, if you know what you're doing, I can, like I said, I can cable manage anything. But more space is always better. So the way that this thing is set up, the controller for the RGB is it's got like some sort of weird built-in controller that uses the just some button. It's just got a button up at the front of the case that can change the LED effects. I'm still a little up in the air as to whether or not I'm going to put in a more advanced LED controller. I'm probably not going to, just because this is more of a bang for the buck focused build. It's got a lot more hardware than most of my other builds have had recently. Oh, that's a bad idea. Why did they do that? Really? It seems like a good idea until you actually go to install it. What the? Can I even install that? Yes, I can. It's going to be weird. You know, there's always someone that thinks they need to reinvent the wheel. And that was a wheel that did not need to be reinvented. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're just going to tuck that right there. And I'll just tuck that under there. So with the Titan we're using with this build, it's actually going to be a really nice build. I've looked at the case. It's going to be a nice looking case when it's done. It's just some stuff that is associated with going with a new budget case. I'm not entirely thrilled with. That's all. Okay, what do we got going on here? That is that. So let's see here. The heck? Got that, and then okay, that's their USB in. We got HD audio, which is going to be in our usual position here. And they did a terrible job with that. Kind of bend it. That works. Okay, so let's do that. Oops. Okay, and then this is always going to be in our corner here. Pretty much all the builds that I do, it's going to be in the corner there. I'm not really working with anything old enough now to not have anything that's been standardized for quite a while. I'm not working with, none of these builds are going to be old enough generally to have like motherboards or other hardware that's not like whatever has been standardized at this point. Any of these builds are going to be new enough to be set up in that standardized way. Okay, so let's put that there. So this one we are going to have to do a bit of zip tying. I'm trying to get away from it, but to make this a decent build, it's going to need some zip ties. Okay, let's... all of the fans are pre-installed, so I'm never going to have to do anything with that. Okay. The only real goal here is to keep stuff out of the way. Let's see here. Let's do one more kind of in the center there. That should do it. Okay. So that's all good there. Let's run you under here. Bam. Okay. Not really a big fan of this having the cutout around the board, having cable ties on it. I don't know. I don't really like that. Okay. What are we doing next? We've got USB. I guess I should have done that with my other stuff, but that's okay. It's probably going to go out there. Well, that'll probably be a zip tie to the, that'll be my trick where I zip tie to the back. Well, maybe. I've had some issues with builds recently where I've done the zip ties to the back plate, and I'm not sure if I like doing it that way anymore. Okay, there's that. And then they do have the standardized style front panel. What's going on here? Okay. We'll go there. Just keep that out of the way. We don't need an IDE indicator light. Let's do this. Let's get this all out of the way. This may be the fastest I've ever done a build at the rate we're going. And part of the thing that would be nice about being able to do the builds physically fast is that when it comes to quality on the end of my buyers, testing is a lot more relevant than anything else. Because it doesn't really matter if I screw something up because I'm going fast. The whole point of the testing is to find all of that kind of stuff. But increasing the speed of the builds could also have a secondary side effect of making it so that I can... That's not going to work. That's going to go there. Making it so that I can do lower profit margin builds, because right now I got to kind of factor in a certain amount of time consumption. But if I can get the time consumption down, I might be able to justify charging less for builds. Okay, and actually, technically I don't need that either. We really just need the power button on this one. Okay. So I'm not a huge fan of the way they did this. They have the front panel all the way over here. Which isn't the greatest way to do it, but whatever. Okay, let's put that there. The builds that I only do an M.2 drive also are a little simpler. Okay. Yeah, I am going to go this route. So this one just wasn't the best option for not zip tying. This build just needed zip ties. Come on. Okay. So these are the cabling for the integrated fans that this thing has. So let's see if we can put them. Well, let's see. Let's do that. So we're just kind of clumping all these fan cables together. Okay. So it's definitely not as clean as a lot of my builds often are as far as the back panel, but it's still clean enough that you're not going to see a messy system. This will still look nice on the other side. So I think we own, well, no, since it's kind of a lower end power supply. It's not a bad power supply, it's just a lower end one. It's 750 watts, but I think I'm still going to prefer using just using one PCIe per, even though it's got two and it's probably fine. Hey, it's a Titan. We got to do the best, right? Okay, so let's, oh, crummy. And it just occurred to me I forgot to put our liquid cooler in. Man, I knew that was too easy. Okay, that's fine though. It's already mostly set up for it, so it's not going to be a pain. This one is actually kind of interesting because the liquid cooler has a single plug. Okay, so this one, I put my thermal paste. There you are. The question is, where are our thumb screws? There they are. So, as I've said before, the builds are all pre-tested. So I already know that, for example, the cooler is going to keep stuff at the temperatures that it should be. Like, I already know all this stuff. At some point, I'll probably do other videos showing showing the other stuff. But for these videos that are build videos, I'm really trying to get these down to be like an hour long, partly for my buyer. And then I'm thinking I partly want these to be build guides for the specific case that we're building in. Okay, we are almost good. Okay, so then I guess I should have. I guess I can tuck it down there. I was gonna say I should have done a run underneath. Yeah, I definitely would have preferred to do a run underneath there, but it's not critical. There you are. Okay. And then what we're going to be able to do with this is we're just going to stuff all the wires related to the AIO and the fans and everything. We're just going to stuff all of that underneath the edge of the AIO right in there, and it should all be good. There we go. And then, yeah, like I said, we're just going to kind of stuff it all down there. If I did that right, it's not going to work. So if I did that right, we'll be able to just put it all down in there. Oh yeah, I think there's actually, it looks like there's not much space, but I think there actually might be a pretty solid amount of space there. Yeah, I think there is. There's actually quite a bit of space there. Okay. I just gotta make sure to get it all where I want it before I screw it in place, because there's not a lot of working room. And I have to put memory in first. Good thing I've got some good low profile RAM. That needs some really low profile RAM though. Okay, that says my video is about to end. Okay, I'm gonna stop this for a sec and then we'll start again. Okay, back for more fun. That definitely is a little tight. It's gonna work, but it's definitely an example of a little tight. And we're gonna have to be a little more creative than normal with the way they have this set up. So sometimes you're not going to be able to use the mounting holes really as intended, but there's usually a way to get around it. In this case, I'm using their yeah, that'll work. Okay. Actually, that's going to really work. So we're good. Okay, let's do one there. And then the one there, and we should be good. Okay, so we are good to go. That's actually on fairly good. Okay, so that is solid. So we're good there. This is actually, I wouldn't recommend this for, as they say, new builders. That being said, it's actually going to be kind of a nice little compact build. Okay, so then let's put our GPU in. This case has the built-in port covers, which that's another thing you typically see on cheaper cases. So putting our Titan in. Ooh, and we've got a plate cover. I decide if I want to. There we go. Okay. And then I might go for, because the GeForce there glows green. So I'm thinking what I might do is set all of the case fans to green. Then it'll be like a NVIDIA green themed build. Now I'm thinking we're going to be fine just running one of these. These cables are pretty beefy, and this isn't actually a particularly high power draw GPU by today's standards, so we're going to run one out through here. So we've got this top, and we've got this area right there where stuff can come out. We're going to run our cables out through there. That's to keep those cables from being clearly visible. They were pretty obvious on the other side, so. Okay. That does not want to separate. Gosh darn it. There we go. So you go there. Okay, we are actually very close to done here. Okay. I wonder if I can... I was thinking run the cables down the back there, but that's okay. So yeah, like I said, it's a fairly clean build. It didn't come out that bad. So I will do my normal cleanup routine. No, I keep forgetting. You guys have already seen the build cleaned. It's taken me a while to get used to doing them that way. Okay. That can go there. Out of the way. Get this out of the way. So I wanted that to go under there. And then I'm going to leave this spare, I'm going to leave this spare PCIe plug plugged in case somebody upgrades their video card and needs something a little bit more. We'll just kind of tuck it in there. Okay. That. There we go. Let's see. Almost out of zip ties with this one. That is, as they say, a wrap. What did we get there? We got 30, just under 40 minutes for the build. So, there it is. You've already seen it, but a little quick thing there. Okay, well, I hope you guys learned something about doing a PC build, and thanks for watching.